today, ma'am. I am Aramis Coriel from BSND2A. So, I will going to educate some consumer on proper utilization of leftover foods and also the proper temperature control and safe food storage to reduce the foodborne illness. So, I have here some tips on proper utilization of leftover foods. First, don't throw them out. Whether you're eating at home or out at a restaurant, don't let leftover edible food go to waste in the trash or compost bins. Also, it is a tip for us to save money for tomorrow's food. Also, at restaurants, get to-go bags, or better yet, bring your own container. Just don't forget it on the table when you leave. After a home-cooked meal, pack up the leftovers and get them into the fridge after everyone has filled up. Label the leftover foods and store them in a place in the fridge where you won't forget about them. So, it is also important to label the leftover foods for us to easily recognize them for reinventing for tomorrow's food. Second, reinvent them. Get creative in the kitchen. Leftover vegetables are easy combined or baked into new dishes. Reinvent grains and meats into fried rice, hash, scrambles, and soups. The web is filled with ideas on what to do with the extras. So, in these tips, it gives us some idea on how we are going to make some creativity on the leftover food. Next, freeze them. If you like the food that's the leftover but just don't want to eat more of it now or even this week, freeze it in a portion sizes or family diner sizes to consume later. You'll thank yourself when you have a busy schedule and no time to make a meal. Just be sure to label your container so you don't have a frozen mystery jar that requires an act of bravery to defrost. In freezing the leftover foods, it is also a tip for us to recognize them or just preserve them for another day or another week. Also, swap them. Industrious folks have turned leftover foods into a useful crowdsourcing hobby with group food swaps or diner swaps. These groups or events consist of a few people making extra food and then swapping it to get more variety for their effort. Also, in swapping the food or the leftover food, you're going to exchange some benefits on swapping your leftover foods. And lastly, prevent them. If you really hate leftover, make an effort to avoid them in the first place by matching the amount of food you cook or buy with the amount of food you eat. Use a portion calculator when you cook, especially if you're trying something new. If you are out at a restaurant and eating something that doesn't store well, split it with a partner or friend. You might even get bold and request a half serving or smaller portion. Also, to prevent having leftover foods, it is also a tip for us to consume a food that we can eat or according to our according to our need to eat that kind of food. And next that I'm going to talk about is about the proper temperature control on leftover foods. On proper temperature control, maintain dry storage temperature between 50 degree and 70 degree Fahrenheit. Freezer must keep food frozen solid with internal temperature of 0 degree Fahrenheit at most. Keep temperature between 32 degree and 40 degree Fahrenheit in refrigerator units to prevent bacterial growth. Hot storage must keep at a minimum of 140 degree Fahrenheit. Next, the safety food storage is a means of reducing the risk of acquiring foodborne illness. Keeping food at the proper temperature is one of the most important things a food handler can do to prevent bacteria that cause foodborne illness from growing rapidly. Leaving certain foods out for a long time in a certain temperatures creates condition for a bacteria to grow, sometimes to dangerous level. Limiting how long spent in growth-promoting temperature minimizes the risk of someone's getting sick. Also, in preserving the leftover foods, we should take into consideration the foodborne illness that might grow in the specific food. Also, in terms of cooking, to reduce the risk of foodborne illness, TCS foods should be cooked to internal temperature specific to the type of food items it is. Also, it is very healthy for us to wash first our hands before touching the leftover foods. I have here some tips on making safety food on your leftover foods to reduce the foodborne illness. After a party, family gathering, or a simple evening meal, there are often some kind of amount of leftover food items. For safe use of leftover to protect you and your family from food poison or foodborne illness, you should follow these simple rules. Remember to wash your hands with soap and water before handling any cooked food, especially food you store to eat later. Use clean utensils to handle the food and store it in a clean container. Do not put food back into the same container it was in before cooking, unless you have carefully cleaned the container. Next, place foods to be refrigerated or frozen in small swallow container 3 inches or less in height and cover them completely. Do not stack these containers right next to the containers, but leave some airspace around them. By using swallow containers and by leaving airspace around the container, you can promote rapid, even cooling of the food. Also, in preparing again the leftover foods, you can stop the rapid growing of the bacteria. Also, eat or refrigerate promptly uncooked foods such as cold salads or sandwich. The goal is to minimize the time of food is in the danger zone, between 40 and 140 Fahrenheit, when bacteria can quickly multiply. You should take into consideration the food safety on preparing again the leftover foods in order for us to have a healthy body and to avoid the food poisoning that caused by the growth of bacteria in the specific food or the leftover food. So that could be all, ma'am. Thank you.